Anime that have this adorable of a premise typically would stick to just being that cute style and calling it a day. I mean, a guy living with his newfound friend that just so happens to be a cat, as we get to see a story through both of their perspectives, is cute, fun, and enough to hold an episode together and be entertaining. But special series will go above and beyond and will melt your heart, not just with the cute scenes, but also emotionally gripping ones, exactly like My Roommate is a Cat does every single episode, which in result elevates the show from just being entertaining but also emotionally gripping. The story centers on our main character Subaru, a shut-in introvert, semi-successful author, and his newly adopted cat Haru. Subaru lost both of his parents in an accident during one of their travels some time ago, and since then has become even more isolated than he normally was. Where most kids would want to go out and play with others and travel the world with their parents, he preferred the indoors, reading a good book and interacting with those he didn't know was something he wasn't comfortable with. Since the death of his parents, his isolated lifestyle was increased tenfold, to the point he's nearly killing himself. His condition is so bad that not only does he overwork himself without realizing it, he also forgets to eat and sleep, and if it wasn't for his colleague checking in on him, who knows what would happen. Haru is a stray cat who stole Subaru's food while he paid a visit to his family's graves, and shortly after this incident, Subaru took her home, and not knowing why or how to treat her, as caring for someone other than himself is completely new to him, and Haru sees this man at the start as someone to feed her. What's fantastic about the relationship between Subaru and Haru is how each episode you get to see both of their perspectives. Haru has a voice, but obviously because she is a cat, she can't talk to Subaru, but we can hear her thoughts. With each episode you see things from her perspective as well as his. Cats and, well, animals in general will do things that we humans won't understand but clearly make sense to them. Why they randomly pounce at thin air, freak out when you touch them, associate a sound with something we might not understand, or meant it to be something completely different. Where with most anime that would go the route of keeping the focus on Subaru's point of view, here we get a section of each episode dedicated to seeing it from Haru's. So you'll watch 10 or so minutes of Subaru questioning what is going on with his cat to then the episode showing us what was actually happening through her point of view. In doing so, what this anime manages to deliver is an explanation to a lot of cat-like behavior in a cute and comfy way, showing people who may have a negative look on cats that there's much more than meets the eye. And for those that already love cats, we get to experience situations that we can relate to or just are greatly amused by. As someone who's had cats his entire life with nothing but positive interactions with them, to the point of all mine have actually been lap cats that you can't leave behind no matter how hard you try, it's nice having an anime that doesn't direct cats as just being an asshole like I often see in the medium, but rather close to what I've always experienced. That Haru and the others we focus on in this series are pretty damn lovable, the same way anime often makes dogs cute and adorable instead of just saying they're all the devil and they only care for themselves. That the behaviors of these animals reflect on how the humans around them treat them. The two need one another without realizing or wanting to admit this fact. For Subaru, he is isolated and alone and cares only for himself, but over the season he starts opening up to more people around him, all thanks to Haru letting his heart love again after closing it off for so long. He has no idea what he's doing or what having a pet truly means. But over 12 episodes, he forms a real relationship with his cat that he can actually call family, something he hasn't felt since his parents died. For Haru, the big sister of her siblings who's now separated from them, she first views this man as someone she needs to protect as he's weak and she can't leave him alone or else he might end up dead. But over the season, she also starts learning what a family is and comes to love him the same way he loves her. At the start of the anime, she thinks all humans are evil due to her personal experiences with them, but thanks to growing a bond between her and Subaru, and other animals explaining what family is, she learns to see that there's much more than one way to view a human, the same way there's more than one way to view a cat for everyone else. What truly makes this anime special is the more dramatic moments meant to make you choke up. There's a fair amount of emotionally gripping scenes that's goal is to bring out vulnerable emotions. Subaru has had a hard life, he's lost far more than he should at such a young age, and as he reflects on things he first thought were pretty easy to understand situations like his parents always bugging him to go on vacation, to which he found to be an annoyance. He then will discover that each time they went somewhere, they thought of him and where it'd be the most comfortable for him to go with as little noise as possible. Where before he thought they were just trying to force him into a situation that he despised, but what they are actually doing is trying to bring him somewhere that he would feel safe because they put so much thought into their vacation. And because he now has Haru, he can take comfort in someone that actually seems to care for for him, or how his mother would try to dress him up. He first considered to be a bother, but when he has to get a collar for Haru, he realizes that she was trying to make him look the best that he could, so he puts the same level of care into caring for Haru as his mother did for him. Over the season, there's plenty of moments where you get to learn more about Subaru on a personal level. What led him to this current way of life, what his family meant to him, while you watch the man reflect on his own mistakes with how he judged his family in the wrong way and how he wishes he could apologize. As he slowly opens up to not just with his new pet and friend, but also with real human relationships that without realizing it, he starts to care for others because Haru is letting him heal after all his time of suffering alone. And while preferring to be alone isn't unhealthy, the fear of the outside world and human interactions is. And while he wasn't hopelessly lost while his parents were alive, clearly he was since their death, not wanting to let anyone in. That is, until Haru came into his life. As comfy and cute as this anime is for a majority of each episode, I was constantly impressed by how often they can make a sense of sorrow rise up through me, as I felt truly bad for what Subaru has been through and how he only now is recognizing his mistakes. That because it's too late he can't ask for forgiveness. It's a very touching tale of how a broken man finds out how to properly live his life. That his isolation was taking it too far, that simple hellos would startle him, making him afraid to leave his house. With Haru having her own personal issues such as losing those she cares for either because a family took them in or an unforeseen death. What drove her to be this overly protective girl, you get a nice balance of emotional high points to help keep the anime feeling grounded to reality, so it's not just comfy scenes 24/7, but rather bad things happen in the world and how do we overcome them. It'd be easy to keep the focus on the comedy saying look at how funny it is that Subaru is a shut-in, but I never felt that way. In fact, I felt quite sad when I looked at his life, and when the comedic scenes were there, it almost seemed as if they were trying to lure him out of his shell in a positive way rather than highlighting how unhealthy his behavior is. While some may try to argue a pet is nothing more than a pet, those that treat their animals right can form real connections that matter on an emotional level. Though we might not be able to communicate with animals like we can with other humans, they do feel emotions the same way we do. It's why animals get so depressed when a family member dies and suddenly is no longer there, and you can sense how disturbed they are. Why when you come home, even if it's only been a few hours, they are excited to see you because you were just there and then you weren't. You form these unique bonds that don't need words but only actions to get across. So watching a man who's had no interest in anyone but himself, and a cat who thinks she just needs to protect this weak guy, open up more and more to the point they really do become family is incredibly touching. And whether you can relate with this cat owner or not, one thing is universal, that this real connection being formed is something everyone can recognize is truly genuine. That even if you've never had a cat like this, you know animals and humans can form these types of bonds. Just this time we also get to see that bond from the animal's point of view. As much as I love the connection between Haru and Subaru, I enjoyed the human relationships just as much, with my favorite being with Nana, a girl who works at the pet shop Subaru is forced to visit whenever Haru is in need of something. She right away can be seen as the potential love interest for him given enough time, but what made me love her character was how nurturing she was. No tropes or gimmicks, just a girl who cares for animals and sees a man completely lost and wants to help him understand pet life so he can treat his new kitty friend well. And as they start talking more and more, they become really good friends, even if Subaru has a hard time grasping the concept of a friend and caring for others besides himself, such as questioning why he would rush to give her keys back after she forgot them. She can just come back herself. But because of Haru, he's starting to care for others, so he'll actually go out of his way to help people like Nana. And because she is so kind to him, she too helps Subaru grow on an emotional level. With Hiruto, a man who claims to be Subaru's friend for over 10 years, though Subaru considers him a nuisance, he helps to bring this sense of positivity to the show, where without him barging in from time to time, the series might be too gloomy, as given the opportunity, Subaru would shut himself in with little human interaction. At first, he is just a fun character, but quickly becomes someone truly looking out for his dear friend and wants to make sure he can overcome what he views as serious depression after losing his parents. Then you have Subaru's editor, Kawase, who adores cats and really is hoping Subaru will start getting out of the house, as like with Hiruto, they see this isn't the life he should be living and he's truly hurting himself. Hell, without his regular checkups, Subaru might die, as on more than one occasion Subaru has overworked himself and underate to the point he's passed out. He starts off as someone who I thought cared for Subaru, just getting his work done, but quickly becomes someone who seems to care for him on an emotional level and goes above and beyond what an editor should do, and clearly considers him a close friend. What the sidecast allows for is for Subaru to not only have human interactions, but also a close group of friends who all in their own way help him open up to his own feelings and the world that surrounds him. For as close as he and Haru are, he does need human connections as well, and between Haru and the rest, he grows at a really realistic pace for someone who starts off terrified of people in the world around him, as this world took who he loved the most away. With each episode, it usually got a chuckle out of me, as there's so many times you think as a pet owner, what is this animal doing, and Subaru has the same response every episode. But because this anime is directed to be from both their points of view, we get to see what made the cat act this strangely. Sometimes you think, do animals see something that we don't, as why else are they attacking thin air? Well, with this series, there is something, and a scene that made no sense turns out to be something a little more complex than we first gave credit to. Simple moments like Haru trying to sleep and thinking Subaru wants her bed, which then pisses her off. These little but relatable moments that any pet owner will appreciate, because from time to time we all think, why are you acting like this? And thanks to My Roommate is a Cat, certain situations get made clear. Now most likely, most of these explanations aren't truly why a cat or other animals will act a certain way, but they do a damn fine job at making you think, well, what could be a better explanation than this? I expected a cute anime that would make my heart melt from adorable scenes, which did happen every episode. What I didn't expect was real relationships to be formed to this degree between the other characters and a man who tries to convince himself he hates people but really needs their connections more than he's willing to admit, but also a cat that has as much personality as any of the human characters, which allows for these real, raw, and emotional situations where a man and his cat grow to understand the world and what family is day by day, so that by the time you walk out of episode 12, you want another 100 episodes of this beauty, while also recognizing that time goes by faster than we like, and we should appreciate those around us before it's too late. Visually, the anime comes across exactly like you'd expect. Though you won't see the most refined of character models or photorealistic backgrounds, you will however notice a solid amount of care put into the overall look to this anime that helps sell the atmosphere that it was going for. It feels like a slice of life from minute one, and with how much comedy is in the show, the transition from everyday life to over-exaggerated reaction feels natural and never jarring. There's a simplistic beauty found in the aesthetic to this show, and when characters such as Haru go overboard, the reactions are priceless and fit this world flawlessly. I quite enjoy overblown moments, and when you have a cat as one of your main characters, you can expect those reactions to be glorious. This is an animal who will freak out, goof off, be silly from time to time, while sometimes being too serious for her own good, and the amount of ways they found to make a cat who can't talk come across as expressive was really well done. With Subaru's discomfort always being a highlight, as he just wants a peaceful life, and whether it's his new pet or those around him, something always happens to make him freak out or just be disappointed in life, and the visuals got across his emotion just as well as Haru's. Scenes where he's forced to go to the pet store or vet for Haru, with very simple details you understood how uncomfortable he was. A simple change in the eyes and mouth would get the job done, but his entire body generally reacted, selling his current emotions. He felt like a terrified man, which was both humorous and quite sad with how they blended this style of comedy and drama. How they directed the series from both a human and cat perspective was also intriguing, as when we were inside Haru's head, I really appreciated how perspective was played around with, as she is a lot smaller than the humans around her, and often you'd see situations as if you were a cat looking up, and when it was more typical anime directing, it still distinguished itself from how it looks from Subaru's point of view, which made seeing a scene we just witnessed from his point of view come across as something completely different due to how they went about directing Haru's situations. While the visuals might not reinvent the wheel, they do fit what style of anime this is, and thanks to its adorable art style, dips aren't that noticeable more often than not. For being an anime revolving around the daily lives of a cat and her owner, I don't think there's a better way to go about directing the animation and art style than what's seen here. Now there's two areas to the sound direction that will grip the average viewer the most, I expect, that being the voice acting for Haru and the soundtrack. Haru is quite different than I normally would expect. Anime seems to have a hate boner for cats, and they want it to be as ridiculous as possible, so maybe give the cat a super deep voice, as that's funny seeing an adorable kitty with a ridiculous voice, or just make it really cute. Haru, however, has a very distinct and emotional voice that sells her character quite well. The entire point of her design is to be this protective big sister type, who has a feisty side but also a big head thinking she knows everything. So when she mocks Subaru or stands her ground, the small yet noticeable fluctuations in her voice sells her as a cat truly believing what she is thinking. She will believe these strange humans can't be trusted, or her new roommate is a clueless idiot that without her would die. The way her mannerisms continue to change in the most subtle ways really helps sell this as not a human voicing a cat, cat, but rather this is what a cat should sound like if you could hear their internal thoughts. It's an adventurous voice that continues to evolve as Haru grows, and I really appreciate how she never sounded like a comedy gimmick, but rather a real character with her own personality. I truly thought the anime would have sided with keeping the focus on the comedy, but thankfully, care to the character details mattered just as much as the humorous sequences. Now, it's not to say the other characters don't have great voice acting. The entire cast does a solid job with the Japanese dub to show a wide range of emotions, with Subaru's gloomy persona or not as positive vibe, but I did find Haru to be the most impressive in this entire cast for me, as it would have been so easy to make her overly cheesy or silly, but they nailed it, delivering a character who feels believable as any of the human cast. With the second impressive area being the soundtrack, as it had this way of blending that typical slice of life peaceful music meant to make it feel calming, but it also brought enough variety to these tracks to help set it apart from the crowd. Whether it be the soft notes meant to make you feel like a kid at peace, to the most emotionally heavy tracks that try its hardest to make you bawl your eyes out because of what's currently happening on screen, being rather depressing. While the music wasn't always relevant, it almost always helped to sell the situation at hand, be it a fun scene between Haru and Subaru to a somber and heart-wrenching one reflecting on life and what we take for granted. Time is something we all take for granted. We think we can focus on us because others will be there tomorrow, but eventually they won't be. My Roommate is a Cat, though is centered on fun and cute scenes, the heart and soul to this series is built around time and how we don't appreciate what we have before it's too late. At first glance, you expect you'll have a comfy little series with a man who has a cute cat, and while you do receive just that, you also get to experience real emotional connections flourish while we follow a man who has lost so much and sheltered himself away to the point that he's finally recognizing what the world can be if he reaches out rather than running away from those who truly care for him. It may be too late to change the past, but it's never too late to make a better future. It will make you laugh, feel at peace, and tear up depending on the episode, but walking out, I could really see myself watching these characters for 100 episodes, as a unique blend of comedy and drama is something I haven't experienced before. While Subaru is what drives the story forward, Haru herself had enough care put into her that you walk out feeling like it's not just a story about a man and his cat, but rather it's a story about two unique personalities discovering what family is. And though they physically might be different, they both are more similar than they realize at the start, and both need the other. I award My Roommate is a Cat my seal of approval. I don't have a major issue with this show. The formula that it went for really succeeded, and from the production to the writing, it feels like this is simply a recipe for success that, given a few more seasons, you could really see this becoming something that many will remember for years. But if it had to be a one and done series, this is more than enough to keep me recommending it for years to come. So hopefully you enjoyed that review. Before we completely wrap up this video, we do have to give a shout out to the sponsor of the channel, which is Loot Crate. If you want to get your own and save yourself a bit of money while also helping to support the channel, you can use my link and promo code, which are always in the description down below. But for this month, we are going to be taking a look at the latest Loot anime crate, so let's get started. So first thing we'll take a look at is this Alita Battle Angel figurine. Last month I got a Fallout figurine from the Loot Gaming crate, which was pretty cool, so we'll see what this one looks like. So in terms of figurine for this month, it's not as detailed, I would say, as the Fallout one I got in the previous crate, but it's still pretty cute. Pretty good colors overall. I mean, getting another figure is never a bad thing, and honestly, like, even if I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this figurine, it's honestly still pretty cool, and I'll have it up on my shelf. So we got some pins once again from The Godfather, a manga. This is a pack of 3, and I honestly think these are pretty freaking cool because, honestly, the detail to these things are awesome. I'm probably not even going to take it out of the package, I'll just leave it like this. Usually the pins in any month I'm not, like, overly fond of because I'm not really a pin guy, but when you have pins this cool, you can't be complaining. This is like one of the coolest things I think in this month's box. So we got a Yume tote bag, which I honestly think is pretty cool because not only is it like half like anime designed, like full of color, but it also has like the manga panels. We get another shirt, which this month it's Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel. We got a Saber shirt, which is pretty cool. Even though I don't like all the Fates these days, I love Heaven's Feel, so to have a Heaven's Feel t-shirt is always a good thing. We got the first volume of Dragon Ball Super. Not really a Dragon Ball guy, so this is pretty much the only thing in the crate that really isn't for me, but hey, I mean, I can always give it away or something down the road. And lastly, of course, we get the poster of the month. So as you can see, it's a Alita Battle Angel movie poster. And this month's theme was powers, so that's why we got the Fate Stay Night t-shirt, the Battle Angel figure, exclusive Yume tote bag, Dragon Ball Super manga, and the exclusive Tezuka pin set. So honestly, this was a pretty good month. So like I mentioned, if you want to get your own and save yourself a bit of money, you can always use my coupon code and link down in the description down below. Thank you so much to Loot Crate for sending this month's box, and let's wrap up this video. But that's all for this video. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the review or the series down in the comment section below. Remember to leave a like if you did enjoy, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. As well, there's always my Patreon if you want to go the extra mile and help support what I do even more. So until next time everyone, please take care, have a good one.